Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Happy Thanksgiving, and we have two stimulus updates today. We have one perspective on Mitch McConnell, and we have an update from the White House that they're looking for stimulus checks prior to the end of the year. Let's get in deep on exactly what the details are here. Let's jump into both of these interviews. Quick reminder, tomorrow is Black Friday, which does mean the Black Friday coupon code does end for the amazing programs on building wealth with stocks, real estate, making YouTube videos, or sales, all linked down below. Take a look at those, and of course, email me for a bundle coupon code at kevin@meetkevin.com. Let's go ahead and jump into these interviews. Also, I am starting another fundraiser on the channel. We are now raising money for Meals on Wheels for America. There are over 21 million Americans hungry, and if you're in a position to be able to donate, 2020 is the year to do it.
Country. In the state of Kentucky, in his own state, Mitch McConnell's state, a third of Kentuckians are now struggling to meet their basic needs like food, heat, and rent as the holidays approach, according to the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy. Kentucky has had 162,838 cases of COVID. He is completely absent. He sent y'all home for Thanksgiving break. And we're going to put back up on, we've been putting it on almost every night, the things that are just expiring. Emergency unemployment relief, eviction moratorium, the 2020 rebate checks that people got, student loan forbearance, meaning people are going to have to start paying, the payroll tax deferral. You can go on and on and on, the paid sick leave tax credit.
A quick clarification, the payroll tax deferral, most people did not take Trump's payroll tax holiday. Federal workers did take it. However, they're going to have to repay that in 2021. Joe Biden is looking to try to extend the amount of time that people repay this with, so that way it's not that big of a noticeable hit on their paychecks. Though it will be, because you're going to have to repay this, which is terrible. It was supposed to be a forgiven payroll tax, but never got through Congress. Neither did more stimulus relief. The eviction moratorium, big problem. That is going to potentially cause an eviction crisis in January and February, potentially through to March. There could be a saturation of real estate inventory that comes due to this eviction moratorium. All right, let's see what else we got here. Just a heads up, the perspective that we're going to get is from a Democratic senator. He gives us a little bit of insights into what Mitch McConnell is thinking, which is good to look at because we don't get a lot of that. We get Nancy Pelosi's press conferences and her letters and her tweets. We don't get a lot from Mitch McConnell.
All that stuff is about to expire at the end of the year, and Mitch McConnell doesn't seem to give a damn. Do you see any signs that any of his caucus care any more than he does?
Yeah, I mean, let me just underscore that level of desperation. I literally just came from Hamden, Connecticut, from a food distribution event for the holiday weekend. And the organizers were panicking a little bit because they had enough food for 300 people. And they had what looked like about 300 cars lined up prior to the beginning of the event, and they were scrambling to figure out what they were going to say to all of these families who were now faced with perhaps going hungry over the holiday weekend. People are at the end of their rope, and you are right, Mitch McConnell is refusing to do anything. What we need for Mitch McConnell to do is just enter the negotiating room.
Quick update on that. Last Friday, Mitch McConnell, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, Kevin McCarthy, and Mark Meadows all got together to talk about a strategy for negotiating on stimulus relief. What came after that? Nothing. No negotiations with Schumer, nothing with Pelosi. They just went on vacation, on recess. That's it. That's what our Congress did. They told us, hey, we're going to have a productive meeting on stimulus negotiations so we can talk about how to talk. Freaking morons.
He has refused to negotiate with anybody, with Nancy Pelosi, with Chuck Schumer, again, because he's afraid of splitting his caucus. Right now, about half of the Republicans want to do nothing. They think that
this is a really interesting argument. So this senator is setting up the case that Mitch McConnell does not want to bring the hero stimulus package to the floor, which would probably pass if they just brought it up for a vote, but Mitch McConnell's in charge. The majority leader can decide, what bills are we going to vote on? Heroes Act? Nope, that's just going to go die on my desk. That's literally what's happening right now. Mitch McConnell just needs to bring it up for a vote, but he doesn't.
Should just be all up to the states, or that Joe Biden should be saddled with the entirety of the problem. And so Mitch McConnell is sort of putting the unity of his caucus ahead of the survival of the nation, because there are 20 Republicans that would vote with 47 Democrats in order to pass a pretty substantial coronavirus relief bill, but he doesn't want to split up the Republicans again, heading into Georgia, heading into the new.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. So what he's saying here is, look, Mitch McConnell's not motivated to do anything, because if he puts the HEROES Act or a stimulus bill on the floor, then you're going to have a bunch of Republicans that say no, and you're going to have a bunch of Republicans that say yes and vote with the Democrats. Well, that's not the best sign of unity going into the January 5th election, because on January 5, we have 2 Senate seats up, for grabs, essentially, and Democrats could take control of the Senate and overthrow Mitch McConnell. So if Mitch McConnell holds a stimulus vote before that and loses Republican support, anything that gets passed that's not fully bipartisan divides the Republican Party, which sends a terrible signal to America that the Republican Party is not united. And giving them more senators could be a problem, because you're giving senators to an ununited party. That's not so good. That sort of sets up that the only kind of package we can get through is something that basically just aligns perfectly with what every Republican wants, so that Mitch McConnell could maintain the image of having a unified party. This means Democrats would have to come down substantially. Whew. This makes me want to make sure I got my 4 free stocks with Webull, which you can get via the link down below, and of course life insurance you can get in as little as 5 minutes. Make sure to deposit $100 to get those 4 free stocks though. Okay, that's the end of that one. Let's jump on over to see what Peter Nvarro says over at the White House, and he does talk about additional stimulus checks, but let's see what other details he gives us. I jumped forward about 2 minutes here just to get to some more of the juicy stuff. Basically, in the first 2 minutes, he says we're going to come up to a precipice without stimulus, which is basically like another way of saying a cliff.
Our Secretary Mnuchin's decision to try to put $426 billion back into a private account from the Federal Reserve. I mean, when so many states, as you know, are red states, blue states are calling on there to be immediate assistance, why not just use...
Okay, hold on. This pisses me off. The media knows better. And this is Bloomberg. You can't take the $454 billion that was given to the Fed and just go, here you go, state and local governments. Congress needs to do that. The Treasury Department doesn't have the authorization. The president doesn't have the authorization. Attorneys for the Treasury Department have already said we can't do anything with the money. It's either the money's going to be there for those 5 CARES Act Federal Reserve programs, or we put it back into an account and we wait until Congress decides what to do with it. Congress has the power. Treasury Department can't just send it to the states. Why the media does this pisses me off, because it just adds to the divisiveness.
The money that's already been allocated.
That's for Secretary Mnuchin to have that conversation with you, Kevin. But what I will say that I think needs to be done is in the phase 4, you've got a number of core things in there. The PPP program, which was the small loan program, was tremendously successful in helping small businesses, and it needs a top-up. The problem we have, Kevin, is we're losing these small businesses, and what we learned from the crash in 08 and 09, that once you lose them, it's hard to get them back. So we really need to do that. We also need to extend unemployment insurance compensation, because all of that, by the end of December, that's all gone in terms of the emergency, and people are hurting. That's going to hurt consumer spending and the like. So that's necessary. And then we had a really good stimulus with that $1,200 check per person that went out. And I think that would be what we need, is a bridge, a fiscal bridge, to the point where the vaccines kick in, right, and we're able to get back to a semblance of the regular economy. Having said that, though, is we do have these structural adjustments that are going to have tremendous impacts that we're going to have to figure out how to wade through, and that's going to be difficult as well.
I'm going to quickly just add here that when he talks about this bridge, the reason he talked about those $1,200 stimulus checks, which he's going to talk about again in just a moment, but the reason he brings up the $1,200 and the PPP together is because here's the thing. If you provide business support, you also have to create demand. You have to give people money that they can spend so businesses can actually function and be busy. This is something that we talked about in CARES Act number 1. Like, great, PPP loans, but what are people going to do when the country's locked down? Are they just going to mop the floor over and over and over again? Like, didn't make sense the first time, at least initially, until things started opening up again. And then the PPP, when they extended the term from 8 weeks to 24 weeks, and they made the PPP program better, it actually became a decent program. Was there fraud? Oh yeah, became a decent program. But you gotta couple that with something that's going to give people demand or a reason to purchase things. Okay, then Peter, the White House trade advisor, spends like 4 minutes talking about China and how demand is slowing and we're gonna have problems. You know, we gotta have more PPP funding and that. Let's get more towards the end in terms of what he thinks about his solution.
So what I see ahead is a chasm as all of these programs expire and we struggle with these structural adjustments. I take your point that the heartland's hurting as well, but I would say that it's the major metropolitan areas that disproportionately are suffering pain in these service sectors. But the point, Kevin and Taylor, is that let's have this conversation. What I'm sending out as a message to you and the American people today is we can see what's coming. And if we can see what's coming and it's bad, we need to be able to avoid it. And the way to avoid it is basically hit those 3 points of the compass in a phase 4 deal, which was the PPP small business loans, a stimulus check, and more relief for unemployed workers. And if we don't do that, there's going to be a lot of pain in America, particularly. Look, this is these lockdowns are a regressive tax, meaning that they hurt the people least able to afford it the most. These are the lower income service sector workers that have been kicked to the curb by the virus from China. And you know, we intelligently, now the election's over, we as a country have to look at the chessboard and figure this out. But having this conversation is an important conversation to have.
Okay, wow. So that was actually really interesting. So he suggests we have to, at minimum, do 3 things. And this is the trade advisor who advises Donald Trump, right? We have to do 3 things. Number 1, we have to provide stimulus checks. Number 2, PPP loans. And number 3, unemployment. Now, this does not address, obviously, other issues. Food aid, child aid, mental health services, testing, tracing, treatments, you know, the other funding for health and human services to get us through the actual pandemic we're in, rental aid. Those are all things that the Democrats are pushing for. However, stimulus checks is one of the top 3 things we're seeing coming out of the White House. They realize we've got a crisis coming at the end of December. And so this sort of begs the question, does this mean that potentially the White House will finally push for unity between Republicans and Democrats to get unemployment, PPP, and stimulus checks, and then potentially deal with the rest of the things in January? Maybe even just delay the eviction moratorium another 30 days and deal with it after January 20th, once we know with certainty who's going to be taking office January 20th. Well, folks, there's the update that we have right now. We know Mitch McConnell's doing Mitch McConnell thing. We've got the White House at least telling us and realizing, look, we need these 3 things, PPP, unemployment, and stimulus checks. So at least the talk is happening. But unfortunately, talk has been pretty dang cheap for the last 6 to 8 months now. Anyway, hopefully you can enjoy your Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the bundle coupon codes or the coupon code for Black Friday and then email me for a bundle coupon code. And thank you, and we will see you next time.